Welcome to Real Estate at Work. If this is your first time here, honestly, you've been missing out. I'm your host, Lekha Devta. It gives me immense joy to introduce to you my friend, Cody Davis. Cody is 22 years old. He started investing when he was only 18 and now owns 100 units plus a resort. Now, this is what blows my mind. Cody used seller financing to buy all his deals and never had to go get a bank loan. I'm like, how does one pull that off? Now, this is especially important in our current market where interest rates for investment properties, especially, are at the highest they've been in the last 15 years. Seller financing is such a great tool and a great way to still be able to afford properties so you can actually cash flow even in this market. So super, super exciting. Cody, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Really good. I'm excited to learn from you, and we're all excited to learn from you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so I have to start by asking you this. What events occurred in your life that caused you to think that investing in real estate at the age of 18 was a good idea?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a couple events and everything had to happen the way it did to get to where I'm at. Like there wasn't one step that could have been different. The path just would have been completely different. When I was 14 years old, my mom was dating someone for a while and they ended up giving me the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read it and got really excited and then realized I was 14 and put the book back down. 4 years later, I picked the book back up because my civics teacher, who just happened to be retiring that year, was also an attorney. He had said that, hey, if you come on the last day of school, which no one went to, I'll teach you how to make money when you sleep. And then I was like, okay, I'll go. And he told us a story about buying a house for $5,000. And all my buddies' takeaways were, well, you can't do that anymore. I was like, well, let's read the book again. And so I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the second time. And that sparked my interest. And having graduated high school in 2018 out of Tacoma, what happened is I ended up going to community college and I was trying to make money. So I was working as a gymnastics coach. I've been doing that for 4 years. And I applied at Target, applied at Safeway. I actually worked for like 10 minutes at Safeway and then quit. But I pressure washed one of my dad's friends' houses and they invited me to the WARI group. And I made a post on WARI, the Washington Real Estate Investors, I think that's it. Yeah, Real Estate Investors Group. And
so
I made
that's
a post.
For people that don't know, here locally in Washington, we have a Facebook group with over 14,000 members. And that group, like even back 5 or 6 years ago, it was like one of the biggest drivers of my business because anytime I wanted like something even as small as, oh, I'm looking for an electrician to rewire a house, I would go post on there and instantly I'd have 7 electricians that would pop up. So WARI is a super powerful group. And this is a good learning for anybody that's in a market that doesn't have a investor friendly Facebook group to go create one, because the moderator of the group is Jan Van Oot, and Jan sees more deals than any of us because they're all posted on his platform. So just a little tip for you guys. Sorry, yeah. Cody, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's real. You got to put yourself out there. And if they don't have a group, you should probably make the group. But I made a post on that Facebook group that said I was looking for a mentor. Granted, I was 18 at the time. And I stated a goal that I wanted to have a duplex at 21 years old. Fast forward a few years, I did pass that goal. But that was the original mission. I was like, I want to have a duplex. I want a house hack. I thought I knew everything, but I was looking for a mentor. And I had a couple people reach out. A lot of people said, well, what's in it for us? And there's 2 people. I'm not going to name drop on here, but 2 people offered to help. And so I ended up getting my real estate license. It took 2.5 weeks from start to finish, from going through the coursework, the 90 hours to testing, passing. And I got my license. About 6 months, I proceeded to try and be a real estate agent, but I realized I had no family or friends in the business very quickly.
Yeah.
And that led to having no clients. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to communicate. Didn't know how to prospect. I didn't have any of the capabilities, no capacity to actually do that job, because that's what it is. It's a job. And 6 months later, one of my old coaching buddies called me up 10 o'clock at night, asked me to help him buy a house. I said, would you consider buying a duplex? Because I'd read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and helped him buy a duplex. And 3 months after that, I bought my first seller financed 12plex.
Okay, wait. So most people, right? Most
Yeah.
people that I speak to, myself included, we all start a certain way. You have some money, you go buy a rental property. Most people that have a little bit of money, that have a little bit of oomph, go buy a rental property that they then fix up and try and sell for a profit. No one's jumping into a multifamily deal, multifamily syndication, or just a multifamily deal. So what made you go that route? How did you find that first deal?
So the first deal was on the market. It was on the MLS for 561 days by the time, or 551. It was a long time, but it was on the
Okay.
market forever. And I didn't start with that deal. That the Beverly Apartments, I'm very public with all my apartments. So if anyone wants to visit, feel free to drive by, or we can go drive together. But the Beverly Apartments in a little town called Quincy. And the first time I brought up Quincy to anybody, my mentor said, what the heck is a Quincy? Like, no one had heard of it. And I looked at it, super small town at the time. It had 7,600 people. Today it's over 9,000. But just it popped up. And the reason that I was looking in that general area, and granted, this is Eastern Washington, it's really Central Washington, but it's east of me.
Mhm.
There was a 22 unit that popped up for another client in the office, not my client. I didn't have any, but
Mhm.
another broker was trying to get that deal done, and it fell out. Like they couldn't close it. They didn't have the funds. It was seller financed. First time I've heard of that. As soon
Mhm.
as I heard about seller financing, I read a book, Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs. A lot of people say that book's outdated. I say they're wrong, but it's a phenomenal book.
Right.
And so I started learning about micro lending and how private money worked. And my mentor at the time said, well, why don't you just buy it? Because the prospective buyer that was under contract didn't have the funds. And so
Okay.
what resulted in that is they backed out. They were gonna basically assign it over to me for nothing because they couldn't do it. And my
Yeah.
mentor just said, you should buy it. And I was like, I don't have any money. It was 300 grand down. He's like, well, what if we just borrow it? I was like, I don't know how to do that. He said, I've got a client that'll place the money. And I thought this was going to be the perfect opportunity because it was going to cash flow 5 grand a month. I was 19 at that time. And I was thinking, oh, it's a home run. Doesn't cost me anything. I'll have 22 units. It was a 12, a 6, and a 4. And I was going to cash flow 60 grand a year. Average household income was 0 money down. And that deal didn't come together. We needed a 1-week extension. I didn't get it. So I looked on the market, just put in the MLS, I put in seller financing as a search term. And then the Beverly Apartments popped up, and called them up, told them I had a deal that fell out of contract, which was true. It just wasn't my contract that fell out.
Uh-huh.
And like,
I love it.
how do you guys want this written up? And I wrote it up and did the same structure, except for this time, my old mentor didn't just raise it for me. I had to make a bunch of pitches to his clients, and I botched most of them, but we got it closed, and that started the journey. That was October, I think it was October 29th, somewhere there of 2019. So I'm about 10 days out from my 3-year.
Oh my God, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Um, and obviously we're really going to dig into seller financing because I feel like that's a huge part of, what you've done, and everybody's excited to hear about it. So I want to get really deep into that, and we will. But let's jump to today. What does your portfolio consist of?
Yeah. So I just had another closing yesterday. It was seller financed, of course.
Of
But
course.
I've got 105 rentals. Yesterday just closed on a triplex. So technically 108 rentals, but the triplex is a water view, unobstructed, right next to the Robin Hood Village Resort, which is the resort that I bought with my buddy Christian about a month ago. And so we bought the neighboring property. It came up on the MLS. I saw it on Zillow because I had a Zillow search. I was just looking at what was for sale, and it popped up and it didn't sell. And by the time I had called them, it had been on the market for 100 days. So, I mean, it was listed while we were buying
Wow.
the Robinhood. I was like, hey, would you guys be open to holding a contract? And they said, yes. So we bought that. And so I'm not going to count that towards my unit count because I'm going to turn that into an extension of the resort. That's the thought process. But 105 rentals, a resort, and the portfolio value is just south of 20 million with south of 12 million in debt. So I'm sub 60% LTV.
Okay. That is amazing for a 22-year-old to have accomplished. I know you're sitting in your resort. First, why did you acquire a resort? What is your game plan with it? Second, do you want to show us around?
I could probably show you guys around. I would maybe I log into my phone while we're talking and then I can just, well, no, that's too complicated. I don't like to add stuff. I'll just unblur.
I like that. Just like take your laptop and then go around.
So this is the honeymoon suite. So
Ooh, I like it.
wait. I need to get the light away. That was awful. Sorry. So this used to be owned by the Nordstroms, and ignore my terrible camera. However, that was donated by the Nordstrom family. They're my property neighbors. And
No
this building
way.
used to be owned by them. And then over there, so we got a big A-frame, chandeliers. This camera doesn't really pick it up well. But this is a honeymoon suite. And this is part of like a 3,500 square foot triplex. Got a huge backyard, huge bay windows. And I love the A-frame. I love the cobblestone. And the best part of it all is it came with a free massage chair.
Oh
So
my God.
I make jokes that say I bought a $4.5 million massage chair with a free resort. Because
Oh
why
my
not?
God, that's amazing. How did you find this property? And just so you know, I worked for the Nordstroms, and Jonathan Hollier, my friend, we were both buyers at Nordstrom not too long ago. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm the broke boy on the block. So my direct property neighbor, we've got Bill Gates, and then we've got Jeff Rakes, and then on the other side of them, the Nordstroms, and then I'm just strung along in here. But we got this deal off market from a buddy, Dion McNeely, who's local. He sent it over, who originally got it from Michael Zuber. And they're on YouTube, so people should check them out. But shout out to Dion. But he sent it over. He said, hey, I got a resort. And this is why we bought it. Like, I got a resort, seller financed, zero money down. It'll cash flow 20 grand a month. And I was like, that sounds like a good deal. Problem was, it was
free money.
Yeah, it was great. However, we meet up with the owner. I'm sitting on this couch. They're sitting on that couch. And he's like, okay, you guys bring a suitcase full of cash. I'm like, oh yeah, let me just go grab it. It's in my car. So we ended up negotiating. It wasn't zero money down. That's the only reason that we started pursuing this. It ended up being $1 million down. It was seller finance though. And yeah, we ended up structuring that where it actually didn't cost us money out of our own pocket. It was $1 million that we had to come up with, but it wasn't like we were just sitting on $1 million in cash. But we pursued this because we thought it was going to be free. And it ended up being $1 million down, and it cash flowed 20 grand a month. So we did hit that.
Okay. So why did it end up costing you $1 million down?
That's what they wanted.
Okay. And how much of the total cost did they finance?
Bought it for $4.5 million. They financed $3.5 million.
And at what rate?
4.5%.
And this was a month ago?
Yep. I mean, we closed a little less than a month ago. I think we closed on the 5th. It was that week. So it was like 2 weeks ago.
That's amazing. So then how did you raise the $1 million?
So the $1 million, again, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Owner investor meetings. I don't call people to buy their stuff. I call to learn how people got to where they're at. And so ended up making a phone call. grabbed coffee with someone that we'd worked with in the past. Never bought anything from them. Never tried to buy anything from them. They put up the $1 million. So they wanted some tax write-offs, and being that all of this is wood, like everything here is wooden cabin, there's a lot of cool write-offs with cost seg.
Yeah.
So what we did is we brought them in as a JV equity partner with a buyout agreement. You don't have to own it. I'm not a fan of syndication. I'll put that out there. I've never syndicated, probably never will. However, you don't have to own everything day one if you can get the real estate to buy the real estate. And so the way we structured it, the actual real estate, the resort will buy them out so that I don't have to. And if you can do it, like, that's why I love seller debt. Everything is negotiable. You can write the cash flow to where it can hit your buyout agreements to where you may not pay yourself right away. But we structured the deal where, yeah, we have one partner for the money in, but we have enough cash flow to where we stacked the cash flow. They wanted the tax write-off, so we get all the cash flow. And we just stacked that in a reserve account. And then as soon as we write a check for them, cash them out, then we own 100%, and it didn't cost us anything. We're arbitraging the fact that someone else is liquid and that we have time and cash flow. And within 5 years, not only will we have paid them out, we'll own it 100%, but we'll also have this thing paid off. And so we'll have no debt on a resort, no partners. By no partners, I mean, it'll just be Christian and I. We're business partners, but
right.
Like that, we got the real estate to buy the real estate, and that is how we came up with the mill.
So wait. That's a fantastic strategy. I've never heard that before. How much of a tax write-off are they getting that they're okay giving you $1 million and not getting any monetary value back? I mean, they are, but in like a different way. So what is the tax write-off that they're getting?
I don't know the dollar amount. I let them do their due diligence on that, but we worked with this, well, both of our CPAs, and then we worked with an EA, which is like a CPA plus. And if you're not familiar with the EA, folks on the call should do some Googling, because they are way smarter than I'll ever be. However, we were working with the whole tax team, and we worked with our legal team and set up special allocation. So we can allocate our advanced depreciation from a cost seg to them. And we have to show equal benefit. So, I mean, we had to outline all of our benefits so that that doesn't get flagged by the IRS, because there's a lot of work and time from legal team and CPAs and EAs to make sure that that all works.
Yeah.
But special allocation, they get 100% of the write-off. And
cool.
We get to operate it, keeping our cost of capital next to nothing, because they don't want any cash flow. So we get 100% of the cash flow on a resort that next year should do $900 to $1 million in income, and which helps, float the businesses, helps pay off the debts.
Right.
And that's what we want to do. We want to pay everything off.
Yeah. How many rooms did you say the resort had?
It had 20.
Okay.
We bought the triplex over there. So that'll add another 3 suites, and that added another 2.5 acres. So we may add in something with yurts. Not there yet. I don't know. We're looking at yurts. We're also looking at just adding in more cabins, keeping it on theme. But the cool part is it's got this is a little off topic, but it's got a creek in between it. And now we have both sides of the creek. So we're putting over some bridges, and that'll allow us to put in some more cabin spaces in the future.
That is so cool. You could even do like a cool glamping area.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I am so coming to visit you. You guys, if anybody's interested, right before we started, Cody invited me to go stay in the penthouse suite. So I'll take you, and we'll make it like a party night at Cody's resort.
That sounds like a plan. If you ever want to host an event here, let's make it happen.
Oh my God, yes. One of our real estate at work events we can host in Cody's resort. How far away are you from downtown Seattle?
Downtown, I mean, downtown Seattle is 2 hours from downtown Seattle. So I don't know, but it's a 2 hour drive. So
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at
yeah,
all. Okay,
yeah.
sounds good. Amazing. I can't wait. I could continue to talk about the resort, but I have so much more that I want to cover that's going to add value to our listeners. So let's talk about the 4 important aspects of buying and owning real estate, at least important to me. And, these are the aspects that have kept my business moving forward: acquisition, financing, stabilization, and long-term management, especially when you're holding rental properties. So how do we, so going back to acquisition, how do you find and source your deals? Is it through brokers? What kind of tools do you use? That would be super helpful for us to know.
Yeah, I like to keep everything super simple and I don't add steps. I've got a whole bunch of rules. I actually put them on YouTube if people want to check that out. But I set out principles. I'm very principle based. And because of that, things are repeatable. And if it's not repeatable, I mean, what's it worth, right? I mean, it's cool if you go
Yeah,
do something really cool and big, but if no one else can do it, it's not really worth anything. So
right.
I use Google Maps and I actually have a video. It's one of the most watched
Okay.
videos on the channel. But my
Okay.
thought was every building you could buy is on Google Maps. So there's no process that's more repeatable than just using Google Maps. And you find a big roof because the bigger roofs are more likely to be apartments than the smaller roofs. And it's a very simplistic approach. That's why it works. You find out who owns it. I mean, this is all me doing it. Like, this isn't a broker. So in the beginning, it was me. Now I have brokers sending me stuff because they know I can buy stuff without any money and they like that. But
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, find the big roofs, figure out who owns the big roofs, call them up, learn how they actually got the big roofs over coffee. And that was it. No agenda, not trying to buy their stuff. Let's learn how they got to where they're at. And that is why I was able to go so quickly. In the beginning, people were like, well, you're not going to buy any real estate like that. I'm like, probably not. And then those people still don't own as much. And I'm not trying to make the comparison game, but some people pursue buildings. I pursue the process of how to acquire the buildings. Once you buy the building, you own it. Once you know the process, you can repeat it. And repetition, the ability to go out, simplify the game, and then do it over and over and over again is the reason that I can keep scaling without money and without banks, because I understood, and I'm still always learning, how to play the game at a higher level than I was yesterday. And so I'd call them up, learn how they got to where they're at, and take a strategy and apply it. And as soon as I applied it, I built trust. And through trust, I either got to actually go buy deals from them. If you want to build a relationship, quickest way to build trust is to go take something from them, not money, not a deal, but get a takeaway, apply it, and let them know that it worked. That's
Wait,
the
that is the biggest knowledge bomb that has ever been dropped in this meetup. I'm just going to throw it out there. We're going to have a recording of this meetup on our YouTube channel. Please go back and check it out and listen to what Cody said, like, over and over and over again. It's all in the process. The ability to repeat yourself. That is amazing.
yeah, like that is how I find my deals. I don't look. I try and build systems that are super simple. It's like, call them up, figure out, okay, how did you actually do this? And some people are like super polar opposites. And like, if you look at Dave Ramsey or a syndicator, if you look at Cardone or Dave Ramsey, you're not going to know what to do. I look at both models. I'm like, okay, what's the best piece from Cardone? What's the best piece from Ramsey? And how do I apply that to make a better strategy? And so I lever up in the beginning on assets that cash flow ridiculous amounts, because I write the seller notes at where they cash flow ridiculous amounts. And when I build the portfolio I want, then I debt snowball it from smallest to largest debt, regardless of interest rate. That I do both, but some people are like, this is the way, or this is the way. I'm like, okay, you can have fun over there. I'm just going to take stuff that works and work with it. And
ultimately, this is what I love about real estate is there is no set roadmap. Everyone can follow their own paths to financial freedom, and some people's paths are better than others. And as long as you find what works for you, as long as you have the wisdom to take something like what Cody's saying and go find that path for yourself, I think you can achieve that. Maybe not in a year, maybe not in 2 years, maybe not 3 years, maybe not at the age of 22, but who cares, right? Like as long as you have that taste for financial freedom, that's incredible.
And it
Okay,
is
so
possible in a year. I just like to point that out.
yeah,
It's 100% doable. I got introduced to these 18-year-old boys, and at first I have a consulting company, and in the very beginning I was like, shoot, this isn't repeatable, and it really got me down. And then these 18-year-old boys who are now 19 have 18 rental units, and they taught me something. Like they bought them seller finance, their money down, they reapplied the strategy, but they negotiated 6 months no payments. So they fixed their liquidity problem.
wow.
100% cash flow right now. So they're cash flowing $5,500 a month, and the rental bumps will knock out their mortgage. And on top of that, they did something I've never done, which was they had an extra 1.25 acres of land. They're seller financing it off. So there's a loan on it right now that came with the extra land, but the down payment when they sell that land is going to this original note holder, the seller, and they're getting a deed release. So they wrote their seller finance land. The buyer is going to pay them the equivalent of their mortgage. So they're basically operating this 10-plex they bought at a net zero mortgage because they seller financed off a portion of the property to cover their original mortgage. So they basically own a 10-plex with no debt. So
Oh
I want to
my
put it out there that it is repeatable. You can do it at any age. Youthfulness is, not time on planet Earth, it's time in the business. And regardless whether you've been in the business for 10 years, 20 years, or one, you can learn from anybody. I learned from an 18-year-old that just happened to apply the strategy. They're cash flowing 66 grand a year on a $0 investment. They had to bring in an equity partner who's not related to them, and the real estate alone will buy that person out in the next 24 months. Real estate bought the real estate. So if you have the ability to keep things simple, to learn from others regardless of their position, you have an objective going into every conversation and a takeaway coming out, you become super intentional, number one, and the outcome of that is you grow much quicker.
That's amazing. Going back to when you had these meetings with sellers with large roofs, how long did it take you going through that process to start actually acquiring deals? How long did you have to do that? And how many sellers did you have to meet?
Well, the first deal was easy because it was on the market.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the market, that's a slam dunk.
Right.
It was on the market forever. So I was like, all right, let's try and make it work. It was listed with seller financing. Now that was a home run.
Yeah.
That was 9 months after I got my license, but that was a couple months after I had learned about seller financing. I had been meeting with people. After my first 12-plex, it took 9 months to close my second 12-plex, seller financed, also zero money down. 9 months after that, it wasn't planned like this, but 18 months from my first deal, I bought my first 6-plex. And then shortly thereafter, I bought a 38-plex. Meanwhile, I had been meeting with all the owners in Moses Lake. I'm the single largest by multifamily building count. I own more multifamily buildings in Grant County than any other individual or company. And so what I did to get there was I called everybody that was a player in the mid-sized space. I'm not calling the people that own $30 to $50 million assets, but all the mid-sized players, I called them until they knew who I was. And I met with all of them. And so as a byproduct of that, like 2 years after I made a phone call, originally my first script was, hey, I saw you on a 6-plex, I want to buy it. Hung up on me. And I did that for a while. And then when I started using this process, I called them, I was like, hey, I bought a 6-plex, but I saw you on this one. I'm curious how you got a property on Broadway, because I never bought a property on Broadway. I found something they'd done that I've never done. Could we meet up? Well, I'm in Auburn. Oh, cool. I'm in Tacoma. I did a little bit of research, and we met up at P&W Coffee Co. About a year ago. And that was 2 years after I'd called him ish, a year and a half. It was somewhere in there. But 2 years after I'd first called him trying to buy it, to just switching the tone of the conversation and saying, hey, could I learn how you got to where you're at? At the end of our coffee meeting, he offered to sell me the sixplex. I wasn't going for it. I just wanted to learn how I got to where it was at, but the approach was different. And
I love it.
I
You were
would think,
totally going for it.
well, I wanted to learn how I got to where he was at.
Right. Yeah.
He offered, I didn't ask. So
I love it.
it works over and over and over. I thought it was
Right.
luck until I realized this many, there's no way I could get lucky this many times with this many
Fine.
different owners.
Wow. I love it. Okay, next is how do you finance these? Obviously, seller financing. Have you used any other forms of financing?
I've used hard money. I bought a flip once. I hate selling. I think people who sell real estate probably shouldn't have bought that real estate. I think it's a flawed business model, and a lot of people disagree with me on that. I also say cap rates are irrelevant. Everybody disagrees with me on that. However, that's okay. I've done hard money to flip a house, made 160 grand, split it with a business partner. And then I've used hard money to fix stuff up before with second lien debt. So you can go get a seller first. You think about it like you want to buy anything you want. You find the deal first. That's step one. Then you source the debt. And if you can't get 100% debt, which you often can, then you need to find the equity. And so if I ever need more money, I'll go close a deal. And if I need money for renovations, I go to someone like Flynn Family Lending. They'll give me a second. And if you're not familiar with second, I'm in a lien theory state. So liens are just loans, and they record in the order that they are funded. So if you have a first lien with the seller, you close on it and you need money, I go to someone like Flynn Family, who only lends in Washington, by the way. And I say, hey, I need $200,000. It's like a HELOC, except for it's really hard money because it's 12 to 18 months. And I can use that money to go do other stuff. So I've pulled money in second to put as a down payment on a seller finance 10plex before, did renovations. But it really just comes down to deal debt equity. You find the deal, you negotiate as much debt as you can with the seller, because the seller is inevitably the biggest piece. When I first got started, my family said, oh, you're borrowing 12% interest for the down payment? Like, yeah, well, that's really expensive. You should try and renegotiate. I'm like, no, I'm a math guy. And if you're not a math person and you're listening to this, I want to negotiate the biggest piece of debt possible. I don't want to focus on the little one. So while my interest rate was 12%, that was on my 10% down. The seller was financing 90%. So I want to focus on the big one because that's going to have more of an impact. And most people focus on the really expensive debt, which is the tiny piece. And that's the wrong piece to look at.
I 100% agree with you. I run most of my long-term buy and holds the same way. I also use Flynn Family Lending. And what Flynn Family does, and they only lend in Washington State, as Cody said, but there's other people like them that lend across different states, and you can contact Flynn Family to see who those lenders are. But the way they use it, it's called cross collateralization of equity. So say I own a property with $1 million of equity, and then I need a $200,000 loan to go finish a different rehab. Flynn Family puts a lien on my $1 million equity and then gives me the 200,000 that I need for this property. And they don't have a lien on the property that I'm borrowing for. They have a lien on the property that I have equity in. And it's still really expensive debt. It's like I pay like 12-13% sometimes. And it could be like a 6 to a 1 year loan term. But it's super cool because it allows me, when I don't have the cash and I need that bridge financing, to go finish out a project with my existing equity in place. So it's kind of safe for me and it's very safe for them. And Randy, if you have a link to Flynn Family, that would be amazing to put in the chat. Awesome, Cody. Thank you. And then let's go into like quick tip on how do you stabilize properties? Do you buy them distressed? Do you have to put in a lot of CapEx?
Yeah. So I've done all of that. I don't like buying super distressed properties. Been there, done that, and not a huge fan. Granted, there's a lot of opportunity there. My fourth deal I ever bought was a 38plex. I bought it zero money down, seller financed. It was on the market for 13 years. And it was a negative cap rate.
Mm.
So even if I owned it in cash, it would lose money day one. So that one needed a lot of work. However, 9 months later, the property appraised for 75% higher than I bought it, which on 38 units is nice when I'm putting no money down. Like, that's just a good equity bump. It was a 7-figure deal, and it just worked. But my very first property was turnkey, beautiful buildings next to Microsoft, and I had great tenants. Everybody paid. It was a good place to be. I would rather have more of those buildings than have more of the 38 plexes. 38 plex made a lot more money a lot faster,
Yeah.
but the time that I had to invest into it, granted, it made a lot of money. Like, I had to do that deal to get here,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd rather do more of my first deals, the 0 down turnkey assets, than go do a whole bunch of those huge projects, because it just takes so much time. You got to build out independent systems for that asset alone, and I don't want to do a bunch of those again.
I know. That's awesome. And then lastly, how do you manage these properties now that you own 100 plus units plus a resort? How are you managing all these properties?
Yeah, so I own a management company. I did that out of necessity, not out of longingness. Like, I didn't want to do that. However, my old property manager stole all my rents and my security deposits. And so it kind of got old quick when all the bills were still due and I had no money.
Ooh.
As you can imagine. They shut down. They're no longer in Washington. Mega bummer, and will not name drop because slander is a
Yeah.
thing. However, that was a mega bummer. So started my own PM company,
Yeah.
and it's called Multifamily Property Management. I like to keep things simple, so my sixplex is Sixplex LLC, and the
Wait, what
Robin
if you have
Hood.
another Sixplex? Is it Sixplex
Oh,
2 LLC?
I have a lot of sixplexes now, but one of them's called
Yeah.
Big Six LLC because they're bigger units, and that's on Broadway. One of them is on Pheasant Street, so I named it Pheasant Street LLC. But
Yeah.
I just keep things simple. But we manage multifamily primarily for ourselves. We've got some third party. Biggest property right now is our own. That's the 38 plex, but we manage third party. We got a 13 plex, and
You have
so
the bandwidth to take on more
yeah,
third party?
we've got some employees. The way that we
Awesome.
do it, some people, we only manage in markets we own.
Okay.
And the thought
Makes sense.
was, you have, and I learned this from the resort owner, the prior owner of this resort. He's partnered with the Disney family. He's partnered with the Nordstroms. He's played the $1 billion game a couple times. Very smart guy. And what he told me was that you need to find a way to align the compensation model with the productive outcome of the business. And so what we did was, most people hear that and they're like, okay, so I need to charge a percentage for PM, for third party,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to know that if we make them more money, we get more money. Well, that's
Right.
not how we outline our business model. What we did was we kept flat fee, and we only manage in markets that we own in, because if we can get them higher rents, we can get higher rents for our portfolio. And if we keep their fees the same, their NOI just goes up like out of proportion to what it should. And so if they want to cash out refi, they can actually pull more money out. They can sell it for more, and then they can roll more money with us and buy something bigger. We can retain management because everybody wants to keep PM that's flat feed, if they're good. But
Right.
basically it bumps their NOI higher than it should. It's out of proportion with how every other business operates, because most PM companies don't actually own a bunch of real estate, so they don't get this benefit. But we boost their NOI, they could pull more money against it and buy more stuff, which then boosts our income to PM.
Love it. That's amazing. Go and put your property management company in the chat too.
Okay, I can do that.
And go to Cody's company first. And if he doesn't manage in the location you're looking at, and if you're in the greater Seattle market, then you can use the property management company that I use, who I highly recommend also. Very, very good at what they do. Okay, so we're going to take a short break from Cody. I want to bring you guys another super, super special guest, Zasha Smith. I have followed Zasha's amazing journey on Instagram, and we recently met at the Bigger Pockets conference, and she is every bit as amazing in person. And I just wanted to share her story with you because she achieved financial freedom in less than 3 years and has over 100,000 followers on social media. So, Zasha, I'm so excited to have you here. And one day you're going to be here as our main speaker, and we want to hear all about your journey. And welcome, Mom Tia. Um, I'm I bet you're so proud of your daughter, Zasha. I'm gonna spotlight you really quick. So give me 1 second.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha. All right. So walk us through your journey. Just, give us high level, like what got you started in real estate? What are you doing today?
Well, I was a civil engineer for 10 years before I found out about investing. I was working, the typical 60 to 70-hour weeks on a $70,000 a year salary. But whenever I commit to something, I make sure that I perform. And so whenever we had deadlines or things like that, and at the time too, I also have 2 kids. And right now I'm 36. I started this journey when I was 33, and just trying to balance life, and felt like, my husband would always tell me, like, we're getting the rest of you, not the best of you. And that kind of like hit home for me, and why I started looking into another avenue to build wealth. And so I just, was the typical person Googling how to get rich quick or how to quit my job and make money. And I noticed that a lot of people had owned real estate or had a stake in real estate. And I live in Hawaii. And so it's one of the most expensive markets in the world. And so it was hard enough for us to get our own home. So I was like, how are all these people buying real estate, and how are they qualifying? And so I just started taking action. I was looking on Bigger Pockets. It's just like, okay, I'm going to buy something on the market, and I'm a very visionary action taker. I am risk adverse as well. I'm very aware of finances, income, and expenses, because I grew up, in low income and raised by my amazing single mom, Tia, who's here. But I knew there was more to it.
We're going to spotlight your mom. Hold on.
Okay.
Hi, Mom. Thank you for being amazing. We're so proud of your daughter.
But I ended up buying something on the MLS, and I was looking on Zillow, and I was like, okay, this home is listed at 300, and there's nearby ones that sold for like 450. So, and it's a condo, so it can't be that much to fix it up, and I'd still make like a profit, right? And so flipped that, made 103,000 net on my first flip, and was like, whoa, I did that in 45 days. It takes me 365 days to make 70,000. So that kind of blew my mind and opened me up to real estate investing, and knew it was possible here when everybody else is running from expensive markets going into lower price markets. I knew that the margins are bigger here. So if you could find a deal, you can definitely make it worth it. So today I'm still flipping. I'm mostly partner now. I'm in Vegas, Georgia, Texas, Colorado, just anywhere where I have met someone, we've connected, known them for a few years, get their business model. We're on the same wavelength as far as morals and integrity, and then work together instead of building out a huge team. That's the direction that I'm taking my investing. But I have 10 rentals. I net 26,000 gross, 10K a month. I'm a general partner. I'm with Emma Powell in a 110 unit, a 253 unit. And then we're building 12 new short-term rentals in Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. And then just recently on Bigger Pockets on show 668, if you haven't checked it out. And my main focus right now is my partner here, Heather, she's on here as well. We have a 13-acre RV park under contract that we're going to build 45 pads and 15 glamping sites and all that. So I went from trying to just stick to, flipping to now concentrating on being a capital partner for people, or a money raiser, I guess you would say. So I know there's people who, you know, are kind of on their journey figuring out where do they fit in, or get shiny object syndrome. It's okay to do different things. However, you have to pick, you know, what your role is going to be, and maybe concentrate on that to get ahead and scale.
So if you could give us like 2 tips on how to raise capital effectively, honestly, what would you say?
I think I'm in the same boat as Cody. It's relationships, networking, just really like how I met you at Bigger Pockets, right? It's like we built like a little genuine connection. And then
Right.
from there, just being, you know, trying to figure out how you can add value to these people and get to know them on another level. Because I think my first private lender that I got, he lent me $560,000. And it was another investor who had seen, we had bid against the same houses. We were just, you know, we were essentially competition. But as you get to know somebody and build that rapport and build that relationship, they trust you. And so I think at one of the flips, he was like, oh my gosh, I'm tired of doing all this work, managing contractors. I'm thinking about lending. And I was like, I'll take your money. So it was
I
literally,
love
you know,
it.
we had that kind of relationship to where we could joke around, but then also be serious. And I had a good track record. He knew that. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what built the trust. And so, okay, wait,
Amazing.
one tip. So, I mean, that's a couple tips. It's just
Yeah.
build, connect with people, go to events, you know, be on calls like this, add value to other people, maybe in the comments, or, you know, connect outside of this. I know you have a Facebook group as well. Just keep putting yourself out there.
So my biggest takeaway, Zasha, is that Cody should use you to conceptualize his glamping sites.
Yes, my partner Heather, she is the one with the vision, because our design is like amazing. So I'm super
There
excited.
you go, Cody. There you go. I somehow need to own some kind of equity in this partnership.
Yeah.
Um, no, but that is amazing. And you recently, okay, this is another fun fact. You recently won yourself a Rolex. You want to tell us how that happened?
Yeah, so I had done a flip and bought my first rental on my own, but I was a typical start off investor, was like, oh, I got to do sweat equity. I was running to the landfill, the dump, for my contractors. I was going to Lowe's on my lunch breaks while I was working full time, and after work, meeting the contractors, paying them cash. I was like, man, I don't know, this seems a little sketchy. So
Yeah.
I still made a lot of money, which is good, but I knew there was like a better way to do things. And so I joined Ryan Pineda's mentorship, and he really gave me the systems and processes. And it was mostly for connections too. At that time, he had just started his mentorship, but I
Yeah.
had learned that there is a better way to do things. And he actually was the one who's like, you need to get on social media and put yourself out there. You're different. And people like that. I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to share my life. Like, it just seemed so weird at the time, but it has definitely paid off. But I got I went to Vegas. I wasn't expecting it. I'm the top affiliate for their mentorship. And then I've also been with him since 2019, since he first started. I jump on any opportunity there is to help him, because he is my mentor. So if there are people that you look up to, like, jump on any opportunity to help them, even if
Yes.
it's for free. And so that's what I've done too with Heather Blankenship. She started Wealthy Women. I'm one of the core members, and I just offer my time, because I mean, time is, you know, your time is worth a lot. So if you're willing to do something for them for free and help them out in their own endeavors, or even if you're, you know, for Brandon Turner, I bought his coffee, and I barely even drink coffee, but I was like, oh, it's going to a charity, right? If you can support those people in different sort of ways where they're like, oh my gosh, like that really matters to them, then that's a way to also, you know, just further your relationship with them. And whenever you need help, they'll be more than willing to help you too.
I love that. That is such deep wisdom. Thank you for sharing. And I'm so glad that we got to hear from you today. And hopefully, I'll have you back on here for a full interview because I want to really dig into some of your deals, how you stole a deal from Brandon Turner. If you guys want to go listen to that, go listen to her Bigger Pockets episode 668.
Yeah, 668.
668. Yes. Yeah, and then connect with Zasha over Instagram or social media or email. She is such an amazing human being. I can tell you that because I just met her. Okay, so going back to Cody now. Zasha, thanks again for being here. All right, let me add Cody back. Okay. Ready for round two?
I guess so. I have to unmute now.
There you go.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. So I think this portion is largely geared towards how you set up your seller financing deals, and also a little bit of mindset. Okay. So say you have this incredible seller, and then you walked us through how you approach them with, just wanting knowledge and sharing knowledge. If there is a property, say, on market, and you want to actually approach them and say, hey, I want you to seller finance this deal, how are you approaching that with the seller?
Yeah. Well, again, it's super simple, but I want to lead into that with what not to do because everybody
Perfect.
tends to do this. And it's just a common trait of salespeople when they're getting started. And if you're trying to convince someone of something, I mean, you are a salesperson, so just admit it. But most people want to do what's called feature dumping. And feature dumping is where you're listing all the features, featuring the opportunities, who you are, what you're doing. That is not what you want to do when you're trying to get a seller finance deal. You're not trying to list the benefits for them. You don't need to do a huge story of who you are. And I never jump straight into seller financing terms. I'll give you an example real time. To close on the Robinhood a couple of weeks ago, there's a resort that is listed for sale with seller financing in Republic, Washington, other side of the mountain. So I'd have to get a little seaplane to fly over there because it'd be a long drive. And I call them up, and most people, when they hear, oh, you can buy a resort, 0 money down, seller financed, they're like, oh, well, I want to do that. And then you look it up online and you find the resort. So I looked it up. I was like, shoot, it's listed online. It's bigger than my resort. It's all waterfront, 31 acres. I've got 12 acres here. So it's just bigger and it costs less money. What people typically do is they call them up, try and tell them everything about them, and then pitch seller financing if they see it's listed. What I did is I just asked him for his thoughts on the opportunity just overall. I didn't even ask him about seller financing until the second call. I wanted to see what the deal was. So I had him send me some numbers. I looked at it and actually didn't make money. It broke even, which was just incredible. And so they're running at like a net profit of 10 grand a year, and they own it just about outright. So that led into my conversation after I had a clear view of what I was negotiating. It's the negotiation play field. And I got that from Jordan Belfort. But just like knowing what you're actually working with. And so I was like, hey, look, this thing makes 10 grand a year. Am I reading that wrong? Nope, they just don't run it very well. It's like, okay, well, I can't really take that to a bank and I don't want to write a check. So what's this? I saw you want to list it with the contract. What does that look like? And that's where I jump into the seller terms. Most people want to start out trying to beat them up, getting the down payment as low as possible, getting the interest rate low as possible, without actually understanding what the deal looks like. And so I want to say, hey, look, I'd love to buy it, but I need to know a little bit more. Please send me the financials. And so I look at the financials, and then I can come back to with an educated offer. And it's not even a written offer. It's just a proposal. It's like, hey, I was hoping to do X% down. I was hoping to do 10% down. This is why. I need it to be at 3% interest year one. I understand you guys want more than that. They usually say they want, 5, 6%, 8%. Like I'd love to get to 8. I need to start at 3. This is why. And if you guys want to finance it for 10 years, I'm asking for details at this point. How about we just do year one, it's at 3%, year two, it's at 4%. We'll do interest only to keep it all super simple. And we'll just progressively get up to your 8% interest or whatever they ask for. Time is worth more than money. And since we know that if we can just get time, we can get it to cash flow, that'll give us time to get rents up, because I am confident where I'm buying that the rents will be higher in the future than they are today. And so if I can make it cash flow really well at 3%, I'm fine if it goes to 4% next year, as long as I know what the deal is. So when you're going out, you're trying to ask for it, I'd be super straightforward, but keep it super simple. It's like, this is what I was hoping to do.
Right.
And if they have a completely different idea, you can ask to restructure it. But if they just say no, like that's what we did on the Robinhood. They said, how much money you got? Like, well, we're working on a deal for $1 million down. It's like, okay, we want $1 million. It's like, well, could we do 450? No. Okay. I'm not going to beat them up on the down payment anymore. I know that's a hard, firm rule. Some people keep trying to push their idea, find a way to make the $1 million work. And in this case, it was just structuring it where we got all the cash flow, and the cash flow buys the people out. The real estate bought the real estate. You just got to figure out what term you have to work. It's like the only two questions that matter is how do you buy it? How do you never lose it? That's it.
Right.
You can solve those questions. You buy a whole bunch of real estate and you're rich one day, not today. But
Not today.
how do you buy it? You find the deal, then the debt, then the equity. That's step one. And how do you never lose it? It's long-term fixed rate debt, cash flow, and liquidity. And you really don't need liquidity if your cash flow is high enough and your balloon is far enough. That's the magic. So I just try and keep it super simple when I'm talking with brokers. And if I'm talking with owners, I just see what they want. And if I can make it work, let's do it. And if I can't make it work, who do I need to meet with to learn how to make it work? I'm not saying who do I need to partner with, but who do I need to meet that has done something similar that could teach me how to make it work? Like that, it's just a mind shift to, swap. It's like not how do I buy it or could I buy it, but who do I need to meet so that I could learn how to buy it? Like that, it just takes it one step further, because you don't have to partner with people. I don't recommend you partner with people. My last partnership cost me $500,000 and $2 million of real estate. That's the stuff you don't hear on Bigger Pockets. But if you just learn how to do it from the people who have done it, you don't actually have to partner. You don't have to syndicate. You don't have to JV. And that's the approach. But just keep it simple. Figure out what the owner wants, or if it's with the broker, keep it super simple. Pitch an idea, and if you have to rework it until you can acquire the debt, which is the seller debt, and then the equity if you need it, which is the down payment.
I love that. And with what Cody said, there's a book that I absolutely love. It's called The Who Not How. So go find it, read it. Jeremy put the name down in chat. Yeah, it's a great book to basically follow exactly what he's saying. I love that approach, Cody. Tell us a little bit about how you set up these seller financings, or how the sellers rather set it up with you. How much are they typically financing, and how much down do you have to bring percentage wise?
Usually, I've done as low as 4.5% down.
Oh,
granted,
wow.
It's all zero down. It's all zero down to me because I never have any money, but 4.5% down is the lowest. The highest I've done was about 30% down. And that was still one of my best deals, the 30%. Like the actual down payment is not the important part. Cash is actually trash. Like it is just a piece of paper. And some people get so caught up with holding on to their money, and they're like, well, if I run out of money, how am I going to buy more real estate? It's like, well, I'm not using any of my own money to buy real estate anyway, and I'm not syndicating. So there's a way. So I exhaust all the cash that I get, and now it's more than it used to be because I've got the cash flow. And but the main thing is you figure out what is needed to get the deal done. And if you actually want to buy it and you have the resources to buy it, I'm going to always encourage the person to do it if it aligns with their long-term vision. If it's a short-term thing, then I'm like, no, because I don't encourage flipping. But if it aligns with the long-term vision and you have the resources to do it, and it'll cash flow on long-term debt, then I would say go for it. But regardless of whether it's 4.5% down, 0% down VA, seller financing, 40% down agency, whatever it is, If you have the resources to buy it and it fits your goals, then do it. And it's super simple, because if you ever run out of resources, you either learn how to play the game a little bit more creatively, or you get new money.
I love that. Now, I know we got into this a little bit, but how are you raising these down payment checks? Since you're not syndicating from many people, how are you raising it? Who are the investors you are working with, targeting, or they're coming to you?
Yeah. Most of them are just property owners. Some of them I met over the last few years. There's some people that have helped me out in the past that are on this call. But I mean, it just came down to meeting with people, figuring out what they wanted.
Yeah.
And if something that I've done that I haven't shared a ton online about, but my old business partner, which cost me a lot of money, that was the setback of the 2 million I had to sell out in real estate. I hate selling. But he borrowed a whole bunch of money from people. Didn't go well. I don't think it was malintention or anything. I don't think it was any of that, but it just didn't go well. And so I bailed some people out. And because of that, they became long-term friends and clients. And so the good things come from bad times. And
Right.
That's one way I built that. But in the beginning, you don't have that. I at least didn't have that, because I don't have any family or friends that know how to play this game. I'm still trying to teach them how to play the game. But
Right.
they're just owners, and they're just people. Some people put others on a pedestal. They're just humans. And so when I go meet for coffee and learn from people, they become lenders, whether it's a seller financier or just someone that we called about property management and then wrote us a $90,000 check for us to buy a deal. Most of my deals, though, we talk about not syndicating. I am open to a JV if there's a buyout where I'm not partnered with them for a long time, because I don't like to be partnered with people forever, unless it's Christian. My business partner, Christian, and I are good. But outside of that, I don't want to be partnered with people forever. So what I usually do is structure it as debt. So I see some Moses Lake people on the call, but I structured, I bought the Marina Apartments, and the Marina Apartments were a dump. I mean, the people that know. I mean, it was gross, and flat roofs, everything was wrong with it. I didn't really need an inspection. I got one, but didn't need it because I didn't need to pay someone $3,000 for them to tell me everything was wrong. Like, it was that kind of property. But the way I did it is I had the seller finance 560, and I structured the down payment in a second lien position. And so instead of doing it as a partnership, I did it as a debt instrument, which is just a promissory note and a deed of trust. It's just in second position, and bought it with a signature.
Amazing. Pretty sure you all need to go back and watch this video again. I know I do. Okay, and then so like, what is your in the long term, what is your exit strategy to pay your investors back if
With
they're in it for?
Yeah. So same with paying off the actual real estate. It just happens to be with money. And so I structure all my deals where the real estate can pay off the real estate before my notes do. Like that's what clicked for me. Like, I got a 30-year fully amortized note, no balloon. First 12plex I ever bought seller finance. That real estate buys that real estate before it's due. I've got some little notes that are like 270,000 seller finance note, 3-year debt. But the current cash flow of all the companies and the real estate can pay that off in, I don't know, like 4 months. So
Wow.
I struck, that's not where I was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I owned nothing.
Yeah.
But the business model is, let's just structure all the notes and the investors to where the real estate can take care of everybody. Because if you can take care of everybody, regardless of whether you work or not, you leave no one holding the bag. Like, that is the key to this. Don't let anybody lose money, including yourself. Some people are like, well, I'll lose money before I let other people lose money. Don't lose money. Like, it's super simple, but
Yeah.
I structure the deals where if half the tenants leave, we can float the debt. Like You know, that's just stuff like that where I don't want to lose money. I'm super conservative on my deals, and I write them where the cash flows of all the independent orgs can take care of everybody, because I don't want anybody losing money. I've seen other people take advantage of folks, and you know, that sucks.
I honestly love Keith Salka so much. He said, I need a flowchart to visualize this. I think we all do.
If I need to slow down and repeat stuff, you just let me know, because I can do that. I
No,
see
this
numbers
is,
in my head, so it helps.
I know, I love it. I just love the way that your brain works. It's amazing. I have a couple more questions that I think would be super beneficial, and then we'll go into audience Q&A. So if you guys have questions, just raise your hand and then we'll come to you. You can unmute and ask the question yourself. Just don't take up too much of Cody's time, because then we want to give other people a chance, and then we also want to get into breakout rooms. Okay, so Cody, with talks of a recession, maybe we're in one, maybe we're going into one, even probably a depression, how are you tweaking or changing your strategies?
I'm not tweaking anything. Some people like to change their business model during a recession or during a good period of growth. And that's because they haven't found the model that works during all cycles. And some people that have been in the game longer than I have agree with me, and some of them don't. Some people say, well, that's just a lack of experience talking. However, I don't try and buy stuff from people. I try and learn how they play the game. And so I've learned from the people that have been playing the game for 60 years longer than I've been alive.
Right.
And so it's just a different strategy, but the overall strategy is meet with people who have done something you want to do and learn how they did it. And then the key component is simplify it in a way where you can repeat it regardless of your financial position. Like that is the strategy. And so I meet with people that have done cool things. I found seller financeable 400 plus unit complexes. They paid it off. And that's something I want to do. I look at the portfolio, I'm like, I could Dave Ramsey this thing, and then I could pay it off and I could seller finance it off to the next generation someday, but I haven't done it. So I should probably learn how they did it. And they made a bunch of money in tech, and you know, that's that. I'm not going to do that. I can't repeat that because I'm not in that space, but
Right.
The strategy is to learn from people that have played the game at a higher level or played the game a different way and get a takeaway from it. My objective is to be a student, and my takeaway comes from their story. The story is worth more than the real estate. Always will be, always has been. And I prioritize that above everything. And, you know, businesses live and die by cash flow. Some people can float the negative for a while. You can until you can't. It works until it doesn't. So I don't use that business model, because hope is a very bad business model. It's great when you need it, but very hard to cash flow plan with hope. So I just tried to learn the best pieces from everybody's story, from everybody's strategy, learn from the worst. Some of the mentors that I've had, one of them really put me in a rather difficult and unfortunate position, but I learned just as much of what to do as I did what not to do. And the strategy isn't just go buy a bunch of buildings. Let's learn how to play this game at the highest level. And so I'm not changing anything.
I love that. And I can tell you, after speaking to hundreds of real estate investors, you are playing this at the highest level. And for someone your age to be doing that, I know you said it's not about how many years you spent on earth and rather on the business, but I can tell you, someone at your age to be doing this, you are so, so amazing and commendable.
Appreciate that.
This has been such a great session, Cody, and absolutely have enjoyed having you here. Thank you so much for all the wisdom you shared with us. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Cody.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.